on the guy side, like we're friendly off the court, we're pretty generous on the court. All the boys are boys to a certain degree. Take a look at the females, you know, probably not as nice off the court with each other, you know, less conversation. And I'll tell you what, those matches, it's almost, I mean, honestly, it's probably better to watch than the men, highly due to just drama, the energy, some of the hype, and, you know, some controversial calls. And those ladies are getting feisty. This episode is sponsored by Bemer Therapy. If you guys want to check out Bemer, a great medical device. I've been using it for a long time now. I sleep on it. I use it morning and night. You can go to my website, TysonMcGuffin.com, and see what Bemer's all about. What's going on? My name is Tyson McGuffin. Welcome to the McGuffin Show. We're on episode 65 here. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and turn those notifications on to the TM Pickleball YouTube channel. Topics of discussion here: Minnesota, Daddy's home, DJ Paddle Spike, new recovery setup at the house. Pat McAfee mentioned me on the McAfee show, which is pretty sweet. You may see me in Indianapolis, maybe live on the show. Funny thing is that he called me McDuffie, not McMuffin, not McStuffy, McDuffie. Skechers is the official shoe of PPA and USA Pickleball, and we'll talk about the Jake Paul and Tommy Fury fight. K-Mac, how's Minneapolis? Is it cold?
It is. It's cold, brother. It's cold, but no, it's a beautiful area. The Lifetime facility that we just taught the camp at, so nice, huge. It has everything you would want, and they are fully in on pickleball, man. It's great to see. Lifetime seems like they're fully in. PPA has a partnership with Lifetime, and I believe probably half of the events this year are going to be at Lifetime facilities all around the country. Love me some Lifetime facilities. 5-star restrooms, sauna, dry sauna, steam sauna, hot tub, cold plunge, state-of-the-art building, plenty of space, food, beverage, anything you want. Pickle, tennis, place to drop your kids off. I mean, honestly, it's like one-stop shopping. Those places are great. They are great. Yeah, they roll out the red carpet, man. If I'm going to work out, that's where I want to do it, right there at a Lifetime.
No, for sure. Get a massage, you know, childcare, basketball. No, it's all there, man. So, K-Mac, you just taught a camp Monday, Tuesday there at the Lifetime facility?
Yep. Yeah. Had a great group of campers. Mark Milner, senior pro stud, assisted me. But, yeah.
Marky Mark.
Everybody had a good time. Yeah, everybody had a good time. Fun was had.
Hey, Marky took a bronze in singles, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, Mark's singles and his doubles game is getting better all the time. You know, it takes a little while for different things to click. And, you know, I felt this, you know, when I first started teaching with you, you know, I was training with you. And I remember like the first time I taught a camp with you, I was thinking like, oh crap, like there's a lot of stuff I'm learning here. And I think like similar progression to Mark, like when he taught with us for a while, like you pick up a lot of things teaching with other people, I think. And when your IQ kind of gets better as a player, like it takes a few months, but you start seeing the game better. You start adding more things to your own game, whether it's tactical or technique, and it's really coming full circle for him. So it's good to see.
Teaching can enhance your pickle game. Love that. So let's see here. Mark. I think Mark as a player and Mark as a coach has gotten much more polished, much more established. He's a lot more comfortable in that group setting. Truly appreciate having that man who was my first tennis coach growing up on the team. You know.
Yeah, pretty cool story to see where he's at now, starting out as your coach. He always tells the story of he tried to convince you to stop running around your backhand and hit forehands all day, and said he was glad you never listened to him.
That's too funny. Yeah. Okay, so first and foremost here, Daddy's home. Iggy had a stellar weekend. Not only was he stellar on the court, but he was stellar on the mic as well. Some of those interviews are just ridiculous. For all the viewers and guests out there, him and Christian are actually good buddies. Obviously, he's being sarcastic, and I think they grew up playing tennis together, and they both live in Delray Beach, train together, and that whole interview, and then. His interview talking about how, you know, like the mustard got to his head and he was kind of delirious, and, you know, honestly, talk about a guy who made use of that time And not only is he being seen as a great player, but the guy's being seen as a huge personality. And I think, huge credit to him. He's got his own podcast now. It's called the James Ignatowich Show. And I think we need more personalities like that in the sport that really make do and have some fun with those interviews, you know?
Yeah, he gained so many fans this weekend, not just because of his play. Like, he's a complete stud. He's one of the rising stars for sure. Like, the level's there for a lot of reasons, but like just being willing to put himself out there, not take himself too seriously, have fun with it. Like, he did the right thing. He gained a ton of fans, and he's giving Ryan Sherry a run for his money in the interview department.
He is. No. He totally is. But yeah, him and Cass.
I throw you out there. You're in the mix.
Oh yeah,
you give some pretty dang entertaining interviews. You know.
Yeah, I think I think just it like brands like that, when you're like authentic, when you're transparent, and you let your personality show. I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing content, so people could see me in a much different light, not to see me as an athlete or not to see me through the stories that I post all day long on my socials. But I think it's a good way for people to get to know you. It's I think it makes it very attractive for brand endorsements as well. Like if you're looking for brand endorsements out there, or for all the players out there that are not getting brand endorsements, and you're asking yourself why, do content, be a personality, and freaking win more. It's simple as that.
By the way, it's a little disclaimer: make sure you get on the podium too, otherwise nobody cares. But no, it's true. I mean, there's a certain level of bravery, right? Like, I think naturally people are a little bit guarded, a little bit nervous, right? And I think that's understandable. But like when you let people in, and like you hit the nail on the head, just being authentic, being your authentic self, whatever that is, showing a little more size of yourself. That's what people want to see. That's what people want to root for. Just give them an opportunity to get to know who you are.
Papa Jim. It's kind of funny when James came and stayed with me for a couple of days. He was doing content with Selkirk, and then it was a good way for us to kind of get some touches in as a doubles team leading up to Masters. But I asked James, I'm like, hey, I'm kind of a nickname guy. K-Mac is K-Mac. And anyhow, just most people that I hang out with in my inner circle, I usually give them a nickname. So what is your nickname? Guess what he said?
No, what
said Papa Jim. I was like,
Papa Jim. Yeah.
He may have even said
Papa Jimmy.
Yeah, right. He may have even said Daddy Jim as well, or something like that. But the guy is a riot. And I'm based off of his results over this last weekend, I'm glad that I'm on his team. I'll tell you what, the man played like a complete savage. Him and Catherine, ran through the whole draw, took out the Johnsons in 3, took out Anna, and talk about an awkward matchup. I mean, obviously having to play your spouse like that. Obviously, they've only been playing for like a year and a half, so newer in the game. But both players have a ton of upside, and I don't know. Like, I personally think, I mean, obviously James played like a stud, but it showed in that match. I mean, nothing against AB, because AB is on my MLP team. I played mixed with her at the first MLP there in Mesa. I think she's great, but Catherine played pretty stinking well in that mixed match, and I think, James did his thing, but Catherine was a complete rock, and it kind of showed a little bit that, I don't know. I mean, maybe not as a whole, but in that particular match, I felt like Catherine's level was a grade above Anna's. K-Mac, do you agree?
Well, I think, it comes down to, weapons and style. I think that Catherine's game is she's just extremely well-rounded in everything. I think she doesn't have a ton of weapons, but she doesn't have any weaknesses, and she's just as smooth as ever. And I think in mixed, usually from a female's perspective, playing a little bit of that setup role, beyond just the setup role though, I mean, being able to be versatile and adjust to formation changes, I think she does that as well as anyone. And she's a little bit more calculated with taking those chances and going at you. Whereas Anna Bright may be the stronger women's player because her offense is so much better, and she can use that so much more in women's, but it's managing risk in mixed, especially when you've got a partner as gifted as Riley. It's just going to take them a little while to find out that perfect balance between patience and aggression. I think she'll get there. I think she's got all the tools physically. She also has the character makeup. She's just tough as nails and fights for everything. But
very much so.
I would agree with you. I think that Catherine's match experience and some of her versatility can make her maybe the stronger partner in some mixed doubles matchups. But I will say this, I was on the call for that. That was one of the most entertaining matches I've ever watched, not just because of the grit and the fight and how close it was, but there were so many formation changes. Like it was really like I think I called it like a master class in like strategy, because both James and Riley can play both sides in mixed very effectively with their two-handed backhands in the middle. So there was a lot of, they'd get 3 or 4 points, it stopped working, they'd flip-flop sides. And so it was really tough to like adjust to, I'm sure, for these players to find that right pattern when each of them kept flip-flopping the formation. So really fun match to watch.
No, for sure. And I think, don't know if Anna likes playing James, but I mean that could be a tough scenario. Or I don't know if James liked playing Anna. I mean, judging by the interview, it seemed like obviously he was pretty happy. Don't know if
Sure.
if he was able to sleep in her bed that night, after that. But
Just kicked out.
You're out. You're on the couch. You're in the doghouse. Okay,
Don't play that
you
well.
beat me, and then like an interview like that, you are in the doghouse, mister.
Well, I don't know the head-to-head, but they've played a few other times, and I want to say that Anna's gotten the better of him in a lot of those matchups.
Right.
So I think he was pretty happy about getting closer to evening that head-to-head.
Yeah, but I think you nailed it though. Catherine, I think she knows her role a bit better in mixed. She's a bit more experienced, where, Anna, obviously newer in the sport. I personally believe, Anna is better in women's, better offense, better hands there. But and I think, judging by, like the loss that Rye and Anna had at Desert Ridge against Matt Wright and Lucy. Don't know if you remember that match, but it seemed like Anna was kind of pulling at the wrong time. She was trying to go back behind Matt. Matt was more than ready. Matt was like punching counters back in a hurry. And I think what you had mentioned, it just takes time, like it takes time to really understand your role in mixed. And I think that role is tougher to understand than it is to be a guy and to be taking over and to kind of bring some of that blind aggression in.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, it's kind of opposite for guys, where like their adjustment in mixed is usually to get more aggressive. So like if they get a little more passive or more content with just working the point, that's where they struggle. Whereas men's, they often have to be a little bit more patient. So it's a different adjustment usually at the pro level for what women need to do or the male player needs to do.
Jimmy also had a highlight reel in singles. Ended up beating Jay pretty handily in the semis, and then looked sharp against J Dub in the finals. It's kind of funny in his interview he just kind of said that like singles really doesn't matter, and he felt like J Dub was sleeping and he seemed a little sleepy and yada yada. So funny, like James gave himself zero credit for that singles win, and I think I don't know, it's just kind of back to his personality and back to his character. The guy does not take himself serious at all.
No, for sure. And I think it shows too, like, I think when you're newer on the scene, which he's done really well, but he's still somewhat newer, you want that respect of your doubles prowess, I think, at the pro level, more than singles for a lot of guys. I mean, he came right in. He was could ball out in singles pretty early on. And I think he knew that, but we've talked about this many times. Doubles has more of a nuanced skill set. It takes a little bit more time. And the last thing you want to do, when you're a pro is be labeled as, oh, you're just that singles guy. Right. So I think for him, he wants that respect for everybody. But didn't give himself nearly enough credit for taking down the title. That was some of the most explosive shot making on both sides in singles that I've seen. And he's so long. His court coverage is crazy, where he can track down like some good volleys and still be able to take like a full cut on the next ball on both sides. So like, he's going to be around for a long time in singles if he's motivated and if he wants to have good results.
Yeah, something I've been bugging James about the last couple of months is doing a bit more on the serve. And as we saw this weekend, specifically probably more in singles, but even in mixed too, like he was getting some freebies by, and K-Mac and I have said this countless times, like that's why we see singles players being so successful in mix, is because, I mean, gosh, if you have a good serve and a good drive, you can beat a lot of good teams just with those two things. And it seemed like, James is getting more shape on the serve. It's kind of funny. James called me over the weekend and wanted some tactics on a certain player. Not going to say who that player is, but I was mentioning to James, I'm like, hey, like add a little shape with your serve and, don't be afraid to go for it. And he's like, well, I've been going for it, but I'm more comfortable going linear and big than I am going like shapy, high, heavy. So it's kind of interesting, hearing that from him. But
no, I'm the same way. And it's a different motion to go for a little more shape.
Yeah.
You really have to trust the grit of the paddle and the grab. You don't want to be missing serves, right? It's easy to send them long, but if you can go with more shape, like it throws off the weight transfer, I think in singles off the returner, and just makes that hitting zone a little bit smaller. So it's worth changing that trajectory, I think, especially with paddle technology, giving you the ability to do that.
Right. Yeah. I think kind of breaking that down, if you're looking to go more linear, flatter, but with pace, you go paddle head speed and you add lots of length on your finish. Or if there's 3 imaginary balls in front of you, you want to try to hit all 3 imaginary balls, right? If you're going high and shapy, you want to go shorter finish, maybe climb up that first imaginary ball and touch the back 10%. So for people out there looking to maybe mix the serve up, if you want to go big and flat and linear, lots of length all the way through the ball, maybe 80% through the ball, but don't be afraid to miss it long. If you're going high and heavy, you're going to come up the ball much quicker, which will produce more topspin. And with that, I would be kissing like the back 10 to 20% of the ball, and trust that paddle head speed. Also, too, taking a look at Catherine. So both Catherine and James ended up with 2 golds. Catherine and Leia, I did not watch that match, but I think there's some serious heat involved with both of those players. There's some feistiness, and I would assume that Catherine was very pleased that she won that match. And not only did she win singles, but she also obviously won mixed with James. So she had herself a good weekend.
Yeah, and I did watch the match. Like, it was a very high level women's singles match. Like, Leia came out, she was balling, and even in game 3, she went up like 5-0.
Yeah, I saw
Looked
that.
like she was gonna run away with it. She gave away just a couple returns, and it let Catherine back in it. And then Catherine went on just a highlight reel and won like 11 straight points after that to win it. So it was pretty high level the whole way. I think both players honestly have upped their singles game. Yeah. Obviously, it's going to be tough to beat Anna Leigh, but just the eye test for me, both of them, I think, are going to start playing Anna Leigh a little bit tighter than what they have been. It seems like they're willing to come forward a little bit more, especially Leia. She's not returning and staying back too much.
Right.
She's trusting, her length and her volleys a little bit more. So I think both players are raising their level in singles.
And then taking a look at men's doubles, J-Dub and Dylan got gold. That's their first PPA gold as a team this year. And actually maybe all time, because I know they made a couple finals last year, but I believe that they lost in the final against Ryan Matt. So
I'm pretty sure for both of them it's their first PPA doubles gold.
Right.
I'm pretty sure J-Dub's had a singles gold before, but I think it's Dylan's first gold on any event for the PPA. So monkey off their back as well there.
Good team. J-Dub primarily plays the left. Dylan does not get enough credit. I mean, honestly, Dylan is probably a top 3 right side specialist right now. Does a lot of things well. And I think kind of back to that tip down theory. He goes tip down on the serve. He goes tip down on the drive, tip down with his dinks, with his off the bounce speed up. Everything looks pretty similar. And probably one of the few guys, if not the only person in the sport that literally has 0 tennis background, raw pickleball player, started playing when he was about 3 years old, like when he was in diapers. I'm just kidding. I think he started playing at like around 12 or 13. Anyhow, the only player I know of that is top 5, top 10 level with 0 tennis background. They ended up playing Federico and Pablo in the finals, who got a huge win. Actually, two big wins. One over Barr and Kohler, and then one over Jay and DJ in the semis. But James and I ended up playing that team at Masters, ended up beating him in 3. And Pablo's a stud. I mean, he's lefty, does a lot of things well over there, kind of runs around the backhand a little bit. He can go inside out with the dink. He can also take the forehand and speed up line. Uses the 002, big serve, big drive, clubby hands. But Federico, I kid you not, man, his game, people are going to have to start giving this guy some more credit, not only on the singles court, but more so in doubles. Like he's so much more solid. Like the hands are clubby. He's not missing drops. He's not missing dinks. He uses that Yola paddle, so he plays a little softer. Transition work is super spot on. And I don't think the guy gets enough credit for just how good of a fighter he is, The guy's tough as nails.
Yeah, no, they both played great, but you're right. Of the two, it did seem like Federico was a bit of the alpha. Pablo played great, played within himself. He ran around the forehand quite a bit, was able to dictate. Both those guys are starting to Ernie way more,
right?
And it's really, really making them tough to match up against. But yeah, Federico's doubles game has come just a mile from where it was. He's obviously singles, stud for sure, but I don't think anybody expected him to make the final in doubles, but not singles in Minnesota. So tough one to predict, but just everyone's getting better, man. And the physicality of doubles now is a real factor. Like we saw Ignatowich cramping in mix, right? Like it just shows how much beyond the skills, beyond the grit, just how physical the game's becoming. And it's good to see everybody getting better.
Did you see AJ's post on social media? It was like yesterday. I think it was Monday. It was like the Monday after Minnesota.
No, I didn't see it.
He had posted a video, and basically it's like of a train wreck, and then it goes into like two cars wrecking together, and then it goes into like NASCAR and like this car flipping over. Anyhow, obviously he didn't have a good weekend, right? So he posts this video and like and labeled it like this is how my weekend was or something like that. But I mean, Federico was beating AJ head to head. Federico also, I mean, did a pretty good number on Deckel as well, beating Deckel head to head. I mean, we didn't see any of that last year. That's for sure. We didn't see AJ losing a lot of hand battles to really anybody that wasn't like Bemer or Rye. And I think Barr and AJ is a very good team. But like with Rye and Anna, I think it's new. They're trying to find some chemistry together. They're trying to find their strengths and weaknesses, and it's going to be interesting just to kind of see how that team pans out the rest of the year. Barr and Kohler.
Yeah, no, I agree. It just they seem just a little off. I mean, a lot of that's going to be the hands of Pablo and Federico, but it was odd that like AJ is much more bold, like with his speed ups usually. Like I just don't think he was super comfortable.
He seemed like he was out of it.
And then they got down, and then he tried to get a little more bold towards the end, but it's clearly kind of the wrong time for it. It was pressing a little bit. Normally he's able to instigate a little bit more offense throughout a match. It seemed just like a different sort of match. Yeah. I know that some of the players were struggling with the bounce, seemingly a little bit lower, and even just as I was teaching the camp, it makes kind of a thud weird sound.
It makes a weird sound. I remember that from last year. It doesn't come up at all.
So I think maybe some of that was a factor of just making some of the players uncomfortable. But credit to Federico and Pablo. Like they took it to them.
Yeah.
And they were the better team. They deserved to make the final.
For sure. No, I'm a big fan of Pablo. He's a super nice guy, man. Let's see here, Leia and Elise. I'll tell you what. I mean, it's this whole partnership really has made Elise be seen in a much different light. I mean, the last couple of years she played with Megan. They were always a team that was like third through fifth. Maybe sometimes would get third, but kind of more in like that fourth and fifth spot. And obviously Leia was more the alpha there. She's playing the left. Elise is on the right. But it's a pretty good team. I'll tell you what. They've had some good results. They made the finals of Desert Ridge, and then made the finals of Minnesota this last weekend. And actually probably should have beat Callie and Lucy in the finals. It was close. Lost in 4.
It was super close, and some of the longest rallies that you'll see. And yeah, I mean, we talk about just having chemistry, and I think what it is both Leia and Elise are extremely fiery, just naturally by personality. But I think that Elise has the ability to stay positive with being fiery and always supportive. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what Leia needed. I think Leia, like a lot of us, can go a little bit more negative within that fiery personality. And I think Elise kind of keeps that in check, where there's enough relatability in that personality, but I think Elise is just a great partner for her. Just not even just on the court, which they match up well on the court as well with kind of the setup and the alpha player. But I just think some of those interpersonal communication just goes a long way in understanding each other's temperament.
All right, so speaking on women's singles here in that semis match, so I was playing with the boys this morning, Sean, Damon, and Easy E, right? And I didn't get to watch this match with Leia and Salamane, but obviously, you know, Salamane's been known to make some suspect, you know, lying calls, and not going to say she's a cheater, but there's been some things on social media. One post from Randy Coleman, which was pretty bold, but you know, so she's kind of known, you know, when she's playing matches, more so singles matches, for the player to bring out more, you know, line judges and stuff like that. But apparently, I didn't see this. This is coming from the boys. But apparently, there was a couple tight calls at the end of game. So she won game one, and then did she have game points in game two? And Leia made a couple tight calls, or it was late in game two. Anyhow, I had heard that like there was maybe two controversial calls like in the late of game two.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I was on the call for that one. There was one shot, I think it was game one. I want to say it was like game point. We showed the replay. It was pretty clearly on the line or inside the line. So it was kind of a no-doubter that Leia called out. It was clearly in, and I think that meant her winning game one, where she would have lost it. So that was a big one. And then another one, I want to say, I could be getting the timing of when this happened. Another one kind of earlier, mid-game two, that was pretty obviously in, that was called out. And then another one that was very, very close.
Yeah.
So potentially three, but definitely at least two that were not the right call. Now, I mean, in singles, you know this, like, it's a fast game. You're turning your head. You don't want to cheat yourself. So you're going to call it how you see it. You're a human, not a robot. You're going to get some calls wrong. But if you're Salome, you're going to be frustrated that you have the reputation of being, you know, I'm not saying she is, but she has the reputation of making bad line calls, right? To walk away from that match saying, well, why do I have this reputation when that just happened to me a couple of times in critical moments? So, things are going to get dicey and dicier as these players play more often when they know the history with some of these line calls.
Yeah, no. And I don't know. It seems to me at least that on the guy side, like, you know, we're friendly off the court. We're pretty generous on the court. All the boys are boys to a certain degree. You know, and take a look at the females. You know, probably not as nice off the court with each other. You know, less conversation. And I'll tell you what, those matches. I mean, it's almost, I mean, honestly, it's probably better to watch than the men, highly due to just the drama, the energy, some of the hype, and, you know, some controversial calls. And those ladies are getting feisty.
For sure. Well, and I think part of it, not the case really in this match, but part of it a lot of times is, you know, the player pool of the pro females is a little bit smaller than the male pro.
Hit the nail on the head,
They've played with each other, then they've dropped each other, then back with each other. So there's so many times where the person across the net from you was a former partner, and maybe you didn't like how things ended. So like, just within that smaller player pool, there's a lot more like layers of drama going into these matches, I think.
Right, very much so. K-Mac, so you were live at the Tennis Channel headquarters there in California this weekend, man. Correct? You were in the booth.
How was that?
No,
I mean, I was blown away. Like, I knew the Tennis Channel studio would be nice.
Yeah.
I just had no idea how big it was. And I guess that they broadcast games for like the Kings and I think another sports franchise as well. So I got to see like the full like media center. I got the tour. Like it was a cool experience for me. And then one of the days I got to be on the call with Jan Michael Gamble, who I'd never met, and obviously a big tennis fan. You know, he was a stud kind of before I was in the tennis world, but he's a name growing up in the Pacific Northwest.
Made the finals of Wemby back in the day. He's from Spokane, two hands on both sides.
No, for sure. And I guess he had a pickleball court like growing up as a kid. So he's always kind of enjoyed just that as kind of a cross training. And what's funny is he told me like tennis was like his main training thing, but like all his buddies and him would just go play pickleball as like their fun social game. They didn't dink much, but they said they always were trying to hit each other,
Right.
play with their shirts off, try to give each other
That's
a bunch
funny.
of welts.
That's
So
funny.
kind of cool that he had his roots in pickleball as kind of that just, backyard sport. And so
Yeah.
to be on the call for this now is just kind of cool to see that come full circle.
So commenting with a tennis legend like that, do you feel like he appreciates and he like respects the sport?
Yeah, I think to some degree, I think it's hard to fully respect and appreciate it unless you're out there, to be honest with you,
Right.
because if all you're doing is watching these guys on a stream or on TV, it looks slower than what it really is for both doubles, fast hand exchanges, and singles and the physicality within it. So I know he's played a little bit, but I think that he would need to really play against pros, more regularly to get a sense of like just how good the reflexes have to be. Like, I'm sure that if he wanted to, like, he'd be a stud in no time. But I think there's a new level of appreciation when you actually experience it on the court or watch it live too in person. I think is quite a bit more. I just think it's a little bit easier to appreciate.
Yeah, for sure. Right. I think a quote that hits the nail on the head is easy to get good, tough to get great. So many tennis players looking in saying, "Oh, that sport is so easy. I could get to a certain level and this amount of time." And as we see, we're seeing some tennis players come in the sport and Mr. SQ, it's taken him just a touch longer, but I think Sam's level's coming at a rapid rate. Another guy by the name of Noah Rubin. Noah Rubin also apparently played his first tournament. It was an APP tournament there in Punta Gorda about a month or two back. Didn't have great results, but yeah, I'm sure those guys are coming sooner than later. That's for sure.
Well, I'd love to see those guys climb through the ranks, but I'm glad that at least at first they're having to kind of pay their dues a little bit because I think it's going to make them appreciate, the skills of all the top pros. Like that, they're not just going to be able to show up. They can show up and play a couple of months with their skill set. They can probably play at a 5.0 level, but to play at that top professional tier, I just don't see a lot of talented tennis players just instantly finding that level. Maybe there'll be some exceptions to that, but I think most of them are really going to have to put pickleball training in for a good period of time before they're going to be consistently hanging with the likes of yourself or a lot of the other top pros.
Right. All right, let's touch on DJ's paddle spike here. So, so I've seen that in tennis. Obviously, watching tennis, though, the bottom row of the stadium or the first row of people isn't that close to the athlete, right? So that would never happen. Where in pickle we see Jay and DJ lose that semis match. DJ he wasn't even on the side of the court. I guess he was in the court on the right side, smashed it on the ground. That thing freaking almost hit like a trampoline, fully took off into the crowd. Somebody posted, there's plenty of videos on YouTube and plenty of memes, kind of funny, like taking a look at the people and their faces that paddle came in. They were traumatized, completely traumatized. Obviously, he shouldn't have done it. He came out with like an apology video on his social. Smart by him. He's definitely taken some heat on social media. Kind of similar to me smashing my paddle and a bunch of people, started saying that like I was bad for the sport and I have kids and it's a bad look and all the above. And obviously people are always going to have their opinion. I think smashing a paddle over your knee is a touch different than like throwing a paddle on the ground. Obviously he didn't mean to hurt anybody or to have his paddle fly like that. But it's interesting. Like the pickleball industry and the community, they're just so quick to fire these days. Obviously DJ's in the wrong. But yeah, just some of the brutal heat and like the verbal abuse he's taken on social media is pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, so I have maybe a slightly different perspective on this. I'll tell you a quick little story. So I almost don't want to say this because I really like DJ. I actually think he's a great player. I think he's a really nice young man. But we all have demons that we deal with on court sometimes. You just have to learn to work through that. So obviously he wasn't trying to hurt anybody at all. But he was warned earlier in that match for kind of chucking his paddle a little bit out of frustration, just a small little toss.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I mean, he called a timeout, but he clearly like chucked it to the other end, just kind of underhand.
Right.
That was more controlled, but he had his warning. It was on match point where he threw it down. Obviously, not trying to hurt anyone at all. But so a little story. I was commentating with Cameron in Mesa, and so we finished commentating. We're getting the itch to play because it was like our last day, I think, or Saturday maybe. So we wanted to just go out and drill a little bit. I'd never seen her play, so I'm like, okay, I could use some touches. We found one of the courts just way out there, and we're just kind of drilling for a little bit. And all of a sudden, I hear this clank, cocoon, and I see that there's this carbon paddle, like that was chucked, close to me. And I turn my head, and several courts over, DJ and Jay had just lost a backdraw match. I can't remember to who, but he was frustrated. So he must have chucked the paddle after they lost in that match over several courts. And it went over probably my head and Cameron's head just based on where we were standing. So to me, I was thinking shoot, man, I'm standing here. That could have hit me in the back of the head from several courts away. That would have hurt. That could have been pretty dangerous. So again, in my opinion, the PPA needs to step in when there's a little bit of a pattern here. And I put it in a totally different category of you cracking your paddle over your knee. That was you getting out frustration. In no way was that ever risking hurting anyone else. And when he threw it down, he wasn't even thinking he was going to hurt anyone else. But you start to see a pattern of not having that boundary of controlling that frustration. There's more fans that are showing up. Fans are paying a price to watch the pros, just like any other sporting event. Right. There needs to be some checks and balances, in my opinion. I like that he came out with an apology. I think he's a great young man, but he's going to need to work through that. Maybe this will change, for him because somebody almost did get hurt. But for me, kind of seeing that 2 weeks in a row, that's a pattern that needs to stop, just in my opinion.
Remember Jeff Warnick a few years back at Nationals? Same thing. Somebody has a video of that. He loses that mixed match against I think it's Tyler and Alex Hamner, and he just launches that thing, launches it.
Yeah. Here comes the paddle throw.
Yeah. You cannot. I didn't know that. Yeah, you cannot be doing stuff like that.
Right. And I didn't say anything about it at the time. I was just kind of surprised, but then I saw this weekend with that, I think just the last tournament. It's you gotta restrain yourself a little bit. Of course, you're frustrated. Everybody is, but just can't be having that now at the professional scene, in my opinion.
Right, for sure. All right, I got a new recovery setup right outside of our porch. Pretty sweet. Got a partnership with Cold Plunge, so got the Cold Plunge set up right outside, directly next to the Cold Plunge. We have an infrared sauna. That sucker's around 200 degrees, nice and hot. Waiting for K-Mac to come over to do a little recovery day with me. And on top of that, we have the hot tub. So. I got the full recovery set up. Good for inflammation, good for lactic acid, good for mental clarity, also great for sleep. And I recently, don't know if I told you this, K-Mac, but I recently just got my ribs kind of touched up and done, tattoo. And it was my third time going in. The first 2 times that I went in, the ribs are the worst spot. There's certain nerves in there that just makes it unbearable. Anyhow, the first 2 times I went, I had to bow out 3 or 4 hours after. Told my tattoo guy, I'm like, hey, I can't make the full 6 hours today. This is way too much. This time around, I kid you not, when you go in a cold plunge, it's 45 degrees and you try to stay in there from anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. If you don't understand how to do breath work, or if you don't understand your breath, or if you can't meditate, it is one rocky ride in there. I'll tell you what. Anyhow, so I've been much better at just understanding my breath work, getting more educated with breathing and how all that just helps calm you down and all the above, and meditation, right? So this last tattoo session that I went into, I've been doing a bunch of cold plunge. It's been great for my foot and great for my hip and all the above. Anyhow. I sat there like a statue for 6 hours, and I wasn't meditating for 6 hours, but I was using breath work and focusing on my breath. And honestly, it's crazy what breath work can do. Under pressure, in uncomfortable situations, getting a tattoo, being on the court. But, you know, interesting. Cold plunging really has like benefited my tattoo sessions, and I mean, I'm gonna really start kind of using some of this breathwork stuff like during matches, like under pressure, or I'm down in games, or it's 9 on the third. But it's interesting how calming and just how peaceful you can find yourself when you understand your breath.
So this is something that you've just recently started kind of studying and trying?
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of cold plunge, you know, and got the whole setup. So, in order to really get the most out of it and to stay in that water for more than 5 minutes. Yeah. If you don't have something to go to that can just trigger your brain to settle down and relax, it is so difficult to sit in that freaking cold plunge. But it's just interesting how, cold plunging really has like helped my tattoo sessions, and just being still and like understanding that it's not all that bad. If I focus on my breath and just focus on my breath and not everything else, it makes it a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, no, it sounds like definitely something that could translate on the court. I mean, we get these questions all the time. How do you deal with nerves? Or some players love pickleball and they're like, I won't even touch tournaments because they just don't like the anxiety associated with it. They feel like they never play to the level that they're capable of, and it just ends up not being a good experience for them. So who knew? Breath work.
Who knew?
Might be something to check out.
Get a little breath work in your life. Okay, so yesterday I posted on my socials, Pat McAfee has a YouTube channel and has a show, and he was actually talking about pickleball, and him and his boys have been playing pickleball and loving it. I actually saw Pat at Waste Management Open. He was definitely very intoxicated, as with myself. And anyhow, so Pat, it was kind of funny. He mentioned my name. He called me McDuffie, not McMuffin, not McStuffy. Called me McDuffie. And mentioned that I was a cool looking dude. I had cool hair, had all the tattoos. He said I kind of look shredded. Don't quite know what that means. But anyhow, nothing's been set in stone yet. But my team is talking to his team, and there could very well be in the next couple weeks me traveling out to Indianapolis and going in his studio live, which would be pretty badass. I've always been a huge fan of Pat, and I've always watched his show. And anyhow, I'm hoping that it happens.
Yeah, man, that'd be great, obviously, for your brand, but it's just a cool thing for pickleball, too, right?
For sure, different platform
shows,
like
more
that.
Exposure. Yeah, just little by little, I think it's touching so many people, and pickleball's here to stay. I can say
pickleball's here to stay. It's not freaking going anywhere. 40 by 30, right? 40 million by 2030.
Seemed like a crazy number, right, when it first came out, and now it's like, it seems extremely realistic. Even up here, just in Minnesota, like it's crazy. I guess not too far from here. I think like 45 minutes is one of the indoor complexes. I think it's Lucky Shots, but I was finding out when people reserve a court, they can do it a week in advance at like 6 a.m. And apparently, talking to the locals, they've got like 12 courts there. If you don't reserve that court by 7 a.m. that week in advance, there's no way you're getting a court. And there's like several indoor facilities here. So it's just great to see, even up north here, even in the cold, like people can't get enough. And awesome. This is just one story of many, throughout the whole country.
Right. All right. Skechers. Skechers is the official shoe of USA Pickleball, also the official shoe for PPA, and they partnered up with MLP and with APP. You guys can purchase your Skechers shoe by going to Skechers.com. The Viper Court is available. My shoe, not in my colors yet, but the engineering and the design of my shoe is available in white, gray, and black. That's the Viper Pro. And something that I have not mentioned is that we actually made a different iteration of the Viper Pro. That's for the more aggressive mover. It's built up a bit more. It's a touch heavier. That's called the Viper Elite. K-Mac hasn't touched that yet, but he is getting a pair in the mail here very soon. It is like the Viper. It is like the Viper Pro. I think, like, aesthetically looks better than the Viper Pro. Built up, it's a little heavier, and I think it's for the person that maybe likes the Viper Pro but feels like it's maybe like a little too much like a running shoe. Maybe it's a little too light. It's not durable enough, or there's not enough stabilization like by the ankle or there's not enough support, the Viper Elite is probably your best bet. That's going to be coming out, I just heard, this fall. So viewers and guests out there, Skechers.com, Viper Court, Viper Pro, and the Viper Elite is coming. K-Mac, see you've been rocking the gray ones. How you liking those?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I get the Skechers questions, all the time now, just obviously like yourself, just because they're fully into pickleball. And I'd say for me, compared to other shoes that I've worn, they're noticeably, like, the insoles are way more cushiony, way more comfortable. I used to have insoles that I would put in.
Yeah.
I don't even need to do those with Skechers because my feet feel fine with the cushion. And then I think just the bottom, the Goodyear rubber, they last a lot longer for me than any other ones that I've worn. So that's my honest review. I've had 3 or 4 pairs now that you've given me of different styles, and they've always had that longevity. And it sounds like the new ones, you call them the Elite, that are coming out in the fall.
Viper
I think
Elite.
For so many people, Viper Elite. For so many people, when they're trying to decide on a shoe, it is the biggest factor is, well, how long do they last me, right? So I think if you can go a hit heavier, that probably won't bother a lot of people. If they can get an extra 3 weeks or a month out of them, that's going to be a huge difference maker for just a little bit more weight. So smart by Skechers to have some more options for their consumers, and then just kind of pick what you're looking for from there.
Yeah, if for anybody looking to take one of K-Mac's camps, I'll tell you what, this guy is looking pretty stinking snazzy these days. Chubby shorts, he's rocking the Skechers shoes, power air in his hand. I mean, he looks good. All right, last.
It's all about image.
It's all about image for you. Image and integrity, right?
Integrity. Double eyes.
Okay, Jake Paul, Tommy Fury. I'll tell you what. I was hoping Jake Paul was going to get knocked out. This fight's been trying to happen for like the last 3 years. The first 2 times Tommy pulled out for a wide range of reasons. Anyhow, this is Tyson Fury's younger brother. Tommy's 8-0. Nobody really knew how the fight was going to go just because Tommy really hasn't fought anybody halfway decent. Come to find out, Tommy put the smack down on Jake, and I think there's a lot of happy people worldwide that saw Jake Paul lose. And for all the viewers out there that don't know Jake Paul is was on Disney as a kid, was a Disney actor, and then now he has like an established YouTube channel with a bunch of content, has his own clothing line. Now he's a huge social media influencer, but he had won his last 4 fights in a row. He'd fought a couple MMA guys, and people were waiting to see him lose. And this is the first time that he actually fought a boxer that was young and not washed up and his age. And Tommy touched him up like there was no tomorrow, and it was great to watch. Don't know if you watched that fight, K-Mac.
So, in your opinion, watching it, it was not close.
So he didn't. So it was.
Paul was making it sound like he thought that he didn't get any love from the judges.
Yeah, Jake
should have won the fight.
Jake Paul said 2 of the rounds went 10-8 him, and that is not correct. I mean, Jake Paul, honestly, like, you have to give the guy credit. Like, he's not a professional boxer. He's only been boxing for like 4 years now. And he's got a chin on him. I mean, Tommy was like throwing haymakers and hit him pretty clean several times, and Jake just kept marching forward. So one thing that you can take away from that fight is that Jake is a dog. He's tougher than nails. But it was pretty lopsided. Yeah, like the significant punches for Tommy was like in the 90s. Jake had like 30 or 40. But I mean, something you can say is that Jake made it 8 rounds, didn't get knocked out by a professional boxer.
It just sounds like the technical aspect of boxing and the training of Tommy Fury is probably just a little too much for him at this stage, would be my guess.
For sure. K-Mac, what do you got going next here, buddy?
Yeah, doing a little teaching in Louisiana over the next few days. And then I've been on the road for a while. So I actually had the option of going to Florida and doing more commentary, but it would have been like a month and a half.
Get your ass home.
So had to turn that one down. I'll teach the camp afterwards there in Pictona, and then another longer road trip for me. So going Pictona, Austin, got a camp in San Antonio, and then back to Mesa. And I will be doing the commentary for Austin. So I'll miss one, but happy to get back behind the mic. So much fun, such a challenge for me, but I will keep riding that wave as long as they have me.
No, man, you're doing a great job. By far the best commentator out there. You know that. You know that. You know that. Come on. You know that, and the people know that. Of course they do. You guys will see me back in Pictona March 9th, looking to take some heads off. Super happy to be back. Foot's back to 100%, and I'm coming for throats. My name is Tyson McGuffin.
Get it,
this
Tyson,
is the McGuffin Show. We will see you guys next episode.